All right, so what are the purposes of assessment on the bottom of page 304? For teachers and students, assessing in classrooms is done for two purposes. Formative assessment is done to determine what students have learned and provide feedback to them so that both you and the student can understand where to next focus your efforts. And then summative assessment is to make a final judgment about whether the desired level of accomplishment has been attained, such as a passing score. So in the very end, the summary is how I keep those separated. That's your summative assessment. What did they meet the criteria? Did they do what you thought? Did they show results? Did they show movement? Did they show growth? In standards-based education, every teacher, school administration, and school district will be checking throughout the year for evidence that all students are making progress toward meeting the standards. That's going to be continuous checking and continuous monitoring and continuous paperwork on your end, submitting scores, schools submitting scores, students being retested and retested. The assessment of learning on page 305, state achievement tests are designed as a summative assessment that all school officials, parents, and the public, whether students are meeting required benchmarks, they tell them whether they're meeting them or not. That's where those report cards will come in from time to time. Educators should review the results to gauge how well their students have learned and to consider what changes in instructional strategies could be made to ensure that students in the future do better in meeting the standards. What can I adjust? What can I do differently? You're going to find, I don't know how the teachers who have taught off the same notes for 20 years, I don't know how they've done it, because I find every semester I'm tweaking something, doing something a little different, trying a new activity. I think that you're going to find true. To be effective, you're going to have to continue doing that. A major use of summative assessment is acting as gatekeeper to determine who moves to the next grade, who's qualified to graduate, and who's admitted to a certain profession. The use of test results for gatekeeping purposes has become a way of life at the P12 level. It holds the students' futures. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, because some students, I never was a really good test taker, especially standards-based test, standardized type testing. I just didn't do well. I don't know, I got nervous, I could talk myself right out of the right answer. So I don't know, I think we have to look deeper than just an A, B, C, D type answers. I'm not sure that always tells us that students got what they needed. Also on that same page, there's assessment for learning section at the bottom of 305. Students' essays, projects, and portfolios are valuable resources for knowing how deeply students understand the content of a subject. Observing students as they conduct experiments, demonstrate how to solve a mathematics problem, interact with other students on a group project, provide assessment information about students as learners and about their learning. So it's not just I pick letter A and A is correct, but you're actually seeing them work the problem out. You're actually listening to how they're coming to through the process of what's the best way to figure out the answer. This is the part that I like, and you've heard me mention it in class. I love the sound of learning. When you're collaborating and talking, and I can listen to that, that gives me a lot of feedback. It's where you're at. What is your train of thought? And if you're not on the right path, that's a good time for me as the teacher to step in to try to redirect you. Gives a lot of insight when students are talking. If you're sitting in your chair and I'm thinking you're getting it because you look like you're getting it, you're smiling at me, well, then I send you home to do your homework and I have you do 30 problems based on what I think you know, and then you come back and you've done 30 problems the wrong way, then that's hindered the whole learning process. By letting you collaborate and have those moments as a group to work through things, that lets me know you're on the right thinking. The steps are in place, or I might need to regroup and reteach a certain step. I would know more if I can hear what's going on inside your head. That's bottom line. When used for the purpose of helping students learn or higher levels, assessments can help you identify the current levels of student understanding of the concept or skill you're trying to teach. So I can hear whether that process sunk through and you are getting it, because you're speaking it in your own language. Maybe my language is not what you're accustomed to, but when you put it in your own language, it makes sense to the group. When teachers collaborate on assessment activities, they're not only helping students, but also informing and improving their own instructional practice. Because I can think I've taught the best lesson that I've ever taught in my life, it may not come across to that when it gets to you, because I know exactly what I meant and I know exactly what I was saying. If you can't put those two pieces together, my bestest lesson could be of naught. Research finds that academic achievement improves when teachers and students become partners in the assessment process, because we are both interested and we are both held accountable. Students are more engaged in an academic work when they understand the lesson's objectives, understand what they know already, and have strategies in mind to help them learn the next pieces. Stevens in 2009 suggests the following steps for involving students in the assessment process. First, let students know the learning target for instruction in student-friendly language. What are you going to gain? At the end of this, what should you know and be able to do in their language, not in that common core language? Some of you have come up and said, does this mean what I think it means? And you've told me what you think it means, and I've read it. Well, we don't want students to have to second guess. Just tell them plain and simple in their own language. Provide samples of student work that shows success along a continuum. Here's an A paper, here's a B paper, here's a C paper, so they can know what an A paper looks like. Give students descriptive feedback that'll help them improve their performance, as I do on your as I did on your essays in 2010. On your philosophy papers, I wrote feedback, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about to try to help you correct some of the mistakes you made, also to get you to think a little deeper. Teach students how to conduct their own self-assessments of their progress. Self-regulating, if you remember in 2010, we talked about that. That's an important piece of the puzzle. Help students improve pieces of their work as they pull it together for a final product. And then help students learn to reflect on their work as they become more academically competent and confident. And that's what we want to build, these learners who are not afraid to take chances, and who are good decision makers, think critically and analytical. Those are the folks, that's the 21st century characteristics of workers and learners now. So we need to help them get there. That self-regulating factor is going to come into play as the students are getting older. That should be getting deeper and deeper, and just a constant that I would self-regulate myself. Lots of good stuff in here. I know it may not be the most exciting pieces that we've talked about, but it's stuff that you're going to have to understand, because it's going to be a part of your life for a long time to come.